I think people just give up too early. You know you're capable of more, but you're not doing it because you're afraid. And so it's learning to let go of the fear of judgment and just leaning in on the desire to serve. That's where your happiness comes from.
Take this a little bit further and ask you a controversial question, and it's up to you to answer it or not.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm ready. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manoj Agarwal, and today we'll be talking for the second time with a very special guest, Evan Carmichael. So this episode we are going to dedicate towards mindset. So tell us a little bit about how mindset is important for an entrepreneurial journey for anyone who's looking to become an entrepreneur or is an existing entrepreneur.
So I think it's the main reason why people are not off chasing their dreams. I think most people realize that they have greater gifts inside them, that the thing that they're doing right now is not the best use of their time, is not the final form of themselves. A lot of people are in a job that they don't like, working for somebody, who doesn't appreciate them, doing work that's beneath them. But they don't know how to go off and do their own thing, or maybe they have found their thing, but they haven't pursued it to the fullest degree because of mindset, because you don't believe in yourself enough. And so this is the big problem that I'm trying to solve. It's my mission for life. I'm never going to solve it for everybody, but that's what I wake up every day trying to do, is as the first step, trying to punch everybody's brain to say that you are a genius at something. You are the best in the world at something. And to have you actually believe that, because once you believe that, then you can take the steps. Until you believe that you could be the best at something in the world, then you're not going to actually take the steps to follow through.
Yeah. Hashtag believe, right?
That's it, man. That's it.
All right. So it's paradoxical, right? Like, people generally, we blame people for being too egotistical and sort of, they think too highly of themselves. On the other side, when it comes to taking these giant leaps, as we just talked about, people don't believe enough in themselves. Is it fear of losing? Is it fear of being failing at something? Or why is this paradox that exists?
I think it's actually, it's not fear of failure. It's fear of failure in front of somebody else.
Yeah.
You'll sing in the shower, but you won't sing on the street corner. Mm-hmm. You'll fail in these micro little moments for your own, as long as nobody else watched, right? Like you fail, like who saw that? Oh, nobody. Oh, but as soon as there's the risk of failing and somebody seeing it, whether publicly you're an entrepreneur, you're a business leader, and you're trying to do something big and it doesn't work, or whether it's just failing in front of your family, your friends, your kids, your husband or wife, your friends, and what they might say. It's that fear of failure in front of other people that holds us back. And if you are constantly living your life by what other people are going to expect of you and their opinions of you, then you're always going to play small because they hate their life too. You're living your life based off of what other people who also hate their life are thinking of you. And I think it's a messed up equation. And so, so that's, well, how do we fix it? How do you overcome it? Well, it's through. Whenever you feel yourself playing small because of somebody else's opinion, whether it's a friend, somebody close to you, or some stranger on the internet, because you're going to post your first podcast or YouTube video, whenever you feel yourself playing small because of somebody else's opinion, then you have to go do that thing just because. Like you teach yourself that you do difficult things, especially when it comes to other people's potential judgment of you.
Yeah. It's funny that you pointed out, like, everybody's living the same lie, the same fear. It's like what President Obama said recently. It's a circular firing squad. Like, everybody's trying to keep everybody at bay because of this fear of each other. So now is it more like our egos will get hurt if we fail in front of other people? Like, why do we not satisfy our own yearning to do something special, and just we are so scared of what people may think? I mean, this is just it just doesn't. I cannot understand this paradigm. So if you can help me understand it, that would be great.
It all comes down to self-love. We don't love ourselves enough, ourselves. It's why it's mindset. It's an internal game. We don't love ourselves enough as a species. And so we look for that validation and love from other people. And so doing something that will potentially lead to backlash or negative judgment doesn't give you the self-love from them, right? Doesn't give you that love. And so you don't want to do those things. The right way to do it isn't, I'm going to do something only because this person wants me to, and I'm going to look good in their eyes. It's how do I make myself feel better about myself?
Yeah.
Not in an egotistical way, but in a way that, in a confident way, that I'm amazing. I rock.
Yeah.
Like, can you go and look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you and you're amazing, right? You're great at something. It's why I have Kanye up on my wall. He's at the far corner there. Because that's part of it. It's like, he wants people to know that the time is now, that you're amazing, that you're a genius, right? And he'll stay up and call himself a genius, and everybody thinks that he's got a huge ego because of it. You don't have to necessarily go all the way, Kanye level, but loving yourself, the inside game. How do you feel about yourself when you're alone? And fixing that, for most people, it's negative. Like, for most people, it's not even zero, it's negative. Most people don't like themselves. It's not even neutral. It's negative.
Yeah.
And so how do you build self-love? Well, you build self-love by doing difficult things. You teach yourself that you do difficult things, that when you have an idea, you're going to go off and do it. And even if it doesn't work out, you've trained the muscle that you do difficult things. Because every time you do something difficult, say, I did that. Like, that's crazy. I just did that. Me? That's awesome. Yeah. That's how you start building self-love. And when your self-love cup is full, other people's opinions don't hit you as much.
Yeah.
Right? If you came on and said, Evan, you're number 150 on my show, I just want to bring you on and say, you suck. I hate you. You're the worst human ever. Like, okay. I'd be like, man, Manoj must be having a bad day or something. Yeah. Right? Because that's going to happen. You're going to have people who are lashing out at you, but it's because they hate their own life. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, true.
So it's that inside game of doing difficult things and showing yourself that you love yourself every day.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I'm going to take this a little bit further and ask you a controversial question, and it's up to you to answer it or not.
I love it. I love it. I'm ready. Let's go.
So how far can you take this self-love? Because you can turn into an egomaniac like Julius Caesar, or the current example of, Donald Trump, for example. I don't want to make it political, but there is a sense of, a sense of, I cannot do anything wrong and everything should go my way, or else, this universe is wrong. So where is that boundary?
So that's the balance with humility, with service. Because ultimately, if you want to be happy, you have to serve others. Happiness comes from helping others, especially the people who used to be, who currently are who you used to be. Like, you are built to serve. And so I think people should actually be harder on themselves. I think we typically are our worst critic. I think we should actually be an even bigger critic on ourselves. The problem is we're not our own biggest fan at the same time. And so you can look at people, and I don't know enough about Julius Caesar. I never talked to him, obviously. But it's got to be balanced with humility and service. When you love yourself, it's actually way easier to be humble. Yeah. When you are just proud and boastful and a big egomaniac and not serving others, that's actually not self-love. That's insecurity. When you love yourself, it's easy to say, I suck at this stuff. Like, I suck at I still tell people when I go on stage and talk about YouTube that I suck at YouTube. My thumbnails, my titles, my videos, right? And it's like, what are you talking about? You have 300 million views and 2 million subscribers. No, I still suck at it. Like, it's nothing compared to what I'm going to be, but it's rooted in, I'm amazing at it. Like, the default is I'm amazing. And so now I can go off and say that it's not that I suck as a human, I suck at a skill and I want to get better. And so I think anybody who's off boasting and bragging about how great they are actually don't love themselves, are actually super insecure. And so you balance when you actually deeply love yourself, then you have humility, and then you can give and serve. And that's the ultimate ambition, because you making this show, other entrepreneurs listening and watching, making their businesses, you want to help. You want to feel like the work you're doing, people are listening, people are watching, it's impacting them. We want to help. And it's really difficult. This is the thing. Like, we want to serve. You want to serve. Everybody wants to serve. You're built for it, but you're afraid of judgment. That's the paradox, because serving others requires other people. And so if you want to help them, but you're afraid of how they're going to judge you, you don't do anything. And not you, but everybody, right?
Yeah.
We want to help, but you're afraid of their judgment. And so we don't do anything. So you have your foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. You know you're capable of more, but you're not doing it because you're afraid. And so it's learning to let go of the fear of judgment and just leaning in on the desire to serve. That's where your happiness comes from.
Awesome. So now let's get down to a little bit more tactical stuff. So one of the things that you say that everyone should do is change their environment to build and cultivate a positive mindset. So can you unpack that for us? So how do you change your environment?
So changing your environment is one of the fastest ways that can lead to a consistent result for you. I think a big problem for a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, is you might listen to this episode and be motivated. It's like, yes, now's my time. I'm going to go off and make something amazing. But then you wake up tomorrow and you're back to where you used to be, especially in an entrepreneurial environment where you don't have a boss. There's nobody looking over your computer and breathing down your neck and saying, hey, where's XYZ, right? You're only accountable to yourself, and we're much more likely to let ourselves down than other people. So changing your environment is an easy way to set it up once, and it gives you triggers. I call them play bigger triggers that remind you to play a bigger game every day. So, this is my office environment. For people watching on the video, you can see my office. I've got this big bag of Doritos here. I've got these inspirational people behind me. I've got my YouTube plaques. I've got my neck brace that I wore when I broke my neck for 60 days. And this all means something to me. I walk in here and this is my computer and I'm looking at my work and I've got Steve Jobs staring me down and these Doritos looking at me the whole day. And that may not mean anything to you or to your audience. This is me. This is personal, right? Like this is my picture of my parents and me when I was 8 or 9 years old. That doesn't mean anything to you, but it's deeply meaningful to me. They're play bigger triggers that remind me to step up my game. Even this, like wearing this hoodie, this means something to me. I feel like I'm Batman going on a crusade when I put this on, right? And so designing your environment, your physical environment where you're working, thinking about what's on your screens, like what's on your cell phone background, what's on your desktop background. Why it's so great is you set it up once. You set that play bigger trigger up once, and then you see it every day, and it's that reminder. Yes, I need to do more. I'm capable of more. I believe in myself. Let's go.
If people go back and watch the 50th episode, I was in a different location, and your environment inspired me to sort of build a different room for my setup and set up pictures and things of that nature, which are aligned with what I want to do and which make me happy. So thanks a lot for sharing that. It's actually really helpful, in fact.
And listen, just to add to it, a challenge for everybody watching, listening, is find one simple thing that you can add to your environment. And here's what happens. We want to make it perfect, right? People say, well, where did you get this printed? Like, where did you get that Steve Jobs thing printed? And how did you design? And what ends up happening is you want to make it perfect. And then you're planning, and then you don't do anything. The best thing you can do, like if you love Steve Jobs or your model, your parents, whoever it is, today, go find a picture of them and print it off in black and white from your printer that you've got and just stick it on the wall. Just tape it to the wall. Momentum, that's the biggest thing that's missing. And then tomorrow you can worry about how am I going to get some giant canvas, right? So you've got your setup there. You've got those books that, I'm sure mean something to you. You've got Buddha, you've got some plants, you've got some pictures. Start. Like the best thing somebody can do from watching this episode is just find one simple thing to do and print off a picture and stick it on their wall as step number one.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, I can vouch for it. I mean, it makes a huge difference. So thanks a lot for sharing that. Now, let's move on. And you also have this idea about incantations. So I've heard a lot about affirmations, but how do they differ from incantations? And can you give us an example?
I'm not super into incantations, but the idea is having more emotion attached to what you're doing. So affirmation would be like, I'm going to be a millionaire, or I'm on my way to being a millionaire. I'm on my way to being a millionaire, whatever it is that you want to say. Incantations would be more using your whole body and commanding emotion, because when you have emotion attached to it, you're much more likely to follow through. My version of that is probably in part of my morning routine. I go through 5 S's, and one of them is sing. And so I'll put on a song that makes me want to move. I think one of the biggest things that's missing for people, especially in the morning, is momentum. Like, you might have had the greatest, today might be a great day for you, and you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're starting over. And having an environment, play bigger triggers, definitely helps. But music is one of the fastest ways to change your state. You could be really low and really tired, but then some song comes on that you love, and you would just, without even thinking about it, start bobbing your head, start singing some of the lyrics, and it changes your state from a -1 to a +1. And so everybody starts off, nobody wakes up. Tony Robbins, none of them wake up and be like, "Oh, I just woke up." Like, nobody. That's what we think, right? That's what we imagine, right? Tony Robbins doesn't wake up like that. I don't wake up like that. Nobody does. But they have routines and systems that demand excellence from them instead of having it randomly happen to them. And so one of the fastest ways is through music. So I'll put on a song and just try to get lost in it. Just build momentum, move my body. And it's something that feels good, changes your state from a low energy to a high energy, and that sets me up for the day.
That's great. Awesome. Amazing tip. And now moving on, you quote Eric Thomas quite a bit. And one of the things that caught my eye was that he said, and you repeated, was you have to decide to be amazing. So this links to the earlier conversation we were having. So how do you actually make a decision that, once you recognize that I am amazing, you have to convince yourself, or how does this process work?
So step number 1 is realizing that you are amazing at something. It's in everybody, but it's probably not the thing that you're doing right now. It's probably not the thing that your parents want you to do, or you grew up doing. It's probably not the thing. Most people just haven't tried enough things, right? So how do you know that, coffee is your favorite drink if you haven't had a coffee? How do you know that Doritos are your favorite snack if you've never tried a Doritos? That's what most people do. We settle. We try 8 things and then we pick one, and then that's what we end up doing for the rest of our lives. Meanwhile, like, you could be the best, amazing, greatest in the world at something. You just haven't tried it yet. And so step 1 is believing that you are amazing at something, and then saying yes until you find the thing that, not that you're great at yet, because the first time you do anything, you're not going to be great. Your first episode 1 was not great compared to episode 150, right? And this will suck compared to episode 1500. That's just the process. The more you do, the better you get. The quantity leads to the quality. What's more important is when you're trying something, do you love it? Like, did you enjoy doing it? When you're starting your show, people may say, "Well, you're going to do a what? You're going to do a YouTube show?" Like, what? You're not 22. You didn't grow up with this. Who are you going to even have on? Who's going to say yes to you, right? And if it's not other people saying it's a bad idea, it's the own internal voice in your head saying, "What am I doing? This is crazy." Yeah. It's just, did you love it? If you loved it, if you love bringing people on and you love sharing your thoughts and opinions, then you have to keep doing it. And so step 1 is believing that you are amazing at something. Step 2 is then going off and trying to find that thing, saying yes to as much as possible until you find a thing you love. And then step 3 is trying to change your environment, your habits, routine to support you in that belief on a consistent basis. So we talked about physical environment. We talked about things like music and morning routines. What I would add to it is, when you found the thing that you want to be great at, surrounding yourself with more people who are like that, even virtually, really helps. So, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a game-changing entrepreneur, and no entrepreneurs in your life. Nobody at least has success. Your parents are entrepreneurs, your husband, wife, nobody around you is an entrepreneur who's had success. It can be easy to get down on yourself. It can be easy to say, "Well, it's not working. How am I going to do this? It's not happening." Surround yourself with entrepreneurs. I love aspirational entrepreneurs. So it's why I have my channel, right? So if you're starting a YouTube show or a podcast, I would surround myself every day with people who are starting YouTube channels and podcasts. If I had a podcast, I would listen to Joe Rogan every day. I would listen to Tim Ferriss every day. I would listen to podcasts that I aspire to be like, because in listening to Tim or to Joe, they're in your environment. That just makes you feel like it's possible again. right? So for me, being a speaker, I'm watching Tony Robbins videos and talking to Brendan Burchard and all the guys who are ahead of me in the speaking game. Some of them I know personally now, but before that, it's still watching their videos and reading their books and just having it around you, because for too many people, it's not around you. And so your motivation dips super quickly, and then you go back to settling for a life that you know is not right for you.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. But again, here I will say that obviously you are at a much different level now. It's easy for you to approach people, but I'll take my example. Even when I was approaching you for the 50th episode, it was like intimidating, right? I don't know whether I will get a yes, and that fear of rejection comes in. So when somebody's just starting off, how do you surround yourself? Like, do you surround with yourself with beginners at the same level, or how do you seek people who are more experienced and further along than you?
So a couple of things. If the reason why you're not doing something is because of fear of rejection, then you have to do it. Just to teach yourself. So you got rejected. So what? That doesn't mean that you suck, right? If you are afraid of rejection, that's just other people's opinions. And again, you're going to play small for life, and not you, everybody. If rejection is the reason why you're not doing something, that's not a good enough reason. Being afraid, especially because of somebody else's opinion, is not a good enough reason for not taking action. Next, I would hack, what's your learning style? So for me, I actually learn best. I'm a visual person. So I learn best through visuals. So I don't listen to a single podcast because I don't learn through auditory. It's the worst way for me to learn. Even this interview, the fact that I can see you, when I look away from camera, it's because I'm looking at your picture there, because it's easier for me. I'm more connected to you. I learn better. I can hear your questions better by seeing your face. And that's me. I'm a visual learner. So for other visual learners, great. You may not know Tony Robbins. You may never know Tony Robbins. Awesome. You can still learn from him. Go watch his videos. I'm never going to meet Steve Jobs, but I can learn a lot from him. And by watching his videos, I personally learn and grow. It pushes me. It forces me to do better. If you are around Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and Oprah Winfrey and your heroes every day, even in these micro doses, if you're around them, they will pull you to get better. It just will happen. You may not notice on a day-to-day basis, but if every single day you consumed content from your heroes, people who you look up to that may never meet, but you consumed it in some micro form every day, you will be a different person in 1 year. It's just going to happen. You can't help it. They're going to pull you up to a greater level. Maybe not their level. Maybe you don't become Steve Jobs, but you'll be way further ahead than where you were 1 year ago. And so if it's visual, go to YouTube, get videos. If you're auditory, then listen to podcasts. If you like to read, everybody has books. There's tons of content out there. It's more setting up the practice. And instead of you saying, well, I don't have a mentor, I don't know Tony Robbins, I can't have him on my show. Okay, great. You can still learn from him, right? It's like, it's looking for the 8 reasons why you can win instead of the million reasons why you can't.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me tell you quickly about, I know we're like bouncing on the time, but I want to tell you about Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
So Tony Robbins was on my show a year ago, 2 years ago. I don't remember. Anyway, I love Tony. He's been a great mentor for me from afar, right? I didn't know him at all. I wanted to have him on my show. I reached out to him, not him personally, but his team. And it took me a year to get anywhere close to his team where they would say, yes, let's book a time, right? So my first step was I made a top 10 on him, and then we did more videos on him, and I collabed with his team, and then finally got a year in the working. Yes, Tony's going to come on your show. It's the day of. I'm so excited. I'm nervous. Like, biggest interview I've ever done. Tony Robbins, holy cow. I've made it. Day of, I get an email from his team. Evan, Tony can't make it. He's got something else, and it happens a lot. People have crazy schedules and emergencies, and okay, great. So no problem. Hope Tony's okay. Let me know, when we can do it again. Happy to reschedule. It took 2 more years before I got Tony on the show. 2 more years of following up, of providing value, of helping, of trying to give insights, of me building my community up, because, with every day I grow bigger and bigger and bigger. 2 more years until finally the right opportunity came where he had his book. I don't have it here, but Unshakable. It's on my shelf somewhere. And he's like, Tony's doing 5 interviews that are remote, that are online, and you're going to be one of the 5 because of all the work that you've helped us with for the past 3 years, right?
Wow.
And so we had him on the show, and then that led to a deeper relationship and me going to his events and that kind of stuff. But I think people just give up too early, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm never going to meet Steve Jobs. I've had the good fortune of meeting Tony Robbins. You can meet your heroes, but even if you don't, you can still learn from them by consuming their content.
Yeah. So that's a very good example. And one question I want to ask here is like, do you think people are intimidated by the amount of work they see as well? Because I do feel that, they, as soon as they realize this is going to take this much work, it's just safer to be in a job and get a paycheck or something along those lines. They basically give up just because they're intimidated by the amount of work.
If all you see is the work, you're going to lose. The people who win, they love the process of doing the work, right? Like I love the process of making videos. I've done 6,000 videos, something crazy like that over 10 years.
Wow.
It's crazy. I still like the day that I wake up. So Tuesdays are when I make my videos for my channel. The day I wake up on a Tuesday and think, oh man, really? I got to make videos today. That's it. That's when I close down my YouTube channel. Because you're never going to win doing work that you hate. But everything that you want out of life is on the other side of you chasing down big goals that are scary, that require a ton of work. But the secret is it's not actually work for you because you love it. Like doing this interview. I love it. Hopefully you love it. Like the process of it.
For sure. I love it.
For other people, it's torture. It's torture. It's like the worst thing of all time. If I ask my wife to come on and do this, she's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Not because of you, just in general. She doesn't want to do it, right? It'd be torture for her. Great. That's the problem. So Jerry Seinfeld calls the torture you can endure. And I really like that because your work schedule should be torture for somebody else to step into. Me stepping into your life should be torture for me. It doesn't mean that you have a bad life. It means you've got a great life perfectly designed for you and vice versa. So if you're seeing it as work, you've already lost. It's got to be enjoying the process of doing the work because for you, you love it and it's not work at all.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those deep thoughts and being with us once again on this interview. I wish I'll have you once again, maybe more frequently. But yeah, I mean, you are so full of wisdom. Thanks a lot for sharing all your
number 500.
Yeah. Well, that's too far. Maybe 250. How about that?
What did we do? We did 50. And what's this? This is 150?
150, yeah.
150. Okay, 250.
Awesome. All right.
250. Great. Tell my assistant we'll book it in. 250 and then 500.
Sounds good. All right.
I love it, man. And I love that you're doing it. I love the energy you're bringing. I love the consistency and just being able to show the growth of where you started to where you're going. I'm a huge supporter and man, I'm super pumped to see all your success.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
If you have a podcast or interview show and want me to be a guest on it, I have 2 options for you. There's a link right there next to me. Go click it, and I look forward to being a guest on your show.